Life in the Philippines. So I'm going to tell you about two things that happened to me today. And this is important because something happened that confirmed something. So, first of all, I parked my motorcycle near the same spot I do every day. Someone else was parked where I normally park, so I parked next to it. When I got up this morning, someone moved my motorcycle and put the rear tire in the road and the front tire in the parking area. And the way it was parked was not straight in, it was parked sideways, and there was no reason for anyone to move my motorcycle and park it and leave it there. They don't have to do these things. I was parked properly all the way up against the curb, and other vehicles would should park behind me, and there's even enough room for a car to park behind me. I don't understand why these people had to move my motorcycle, but I've seen cars, instead of parking like this, for some reason they park like this, and they shouldn't be doing that either. There's plenty of room for them to park properly, and them needing to park their car is no reason to move my motorcycle. I was there first. So that was very unusual. And it's like I say, Filipinos, they have no consideration for other people's property. So I went to 7-Eleven. I just came back and I had something to eat. And then I went inside and I bought chocolate covered crackers and a Cloud Nine because a Cloud Nine's really good and it's pretty cheap. And when I went outside, there was a woman standing next to my motorcycle. And because Filipinos, they're very rude people, the women, as soon as she sees me, she turns around. She doesn't want to have to look at me. And I sat down on the curb because the tables were messy and covered with drinks or whatever, and other people were sitting there, and my motorcycle was right there. I'm just going to be there for like 3 minutes. She put her bag on my motorcycle and stood next to it like it was her motorcycle. And I don't know what she was doing, but she had her hands like this. Hey, and maybe she was speaking Italian. And so she's doing something with her hands and maybe using her cell phone. And then she grabbed my mirror. She grabbed my mirror like the mirror is going to get away from her, like she's holding on to it for dear life, and she doesn't even move it gently. I don't move my mirror like that. I don't grab the mirror and go crack it. So she turns it like this, and she's looking in the mirror. I'm just ignoring her because I really don't care. And as I was finishing, her friends, there was like five of them, all came out, and they had two motorcycles, and she still stood next to my motorcycle. So it looked kind of funny when I walked over to my motorcycle to open the trunk to get my helmet, and she's like standing right there. There was only like two or three other motorcycles. I mean, it was like a 25 to 30% chance that that was my motorcycle. And they don't say anything. They don't say, "Oh, sorry that I'm trying to break your mirror," or whatever, or I can't put my bag down, or that I rudely turn my back to you because you're a foreigner, and I think that all foreigners are scumbags. Nothing like that. They got on their motorcycle and they rode off. There were actually three of them riding the same motorcycle. So that's one of the those. That's two of the things that happened. So as I say, if I park my motorcycle near the entrance or along a sidewalk, when I come out, the mirrors are almost always adjusted and they turn off the headlights. And I only go into a restaurant for 30 minutes. I don't take 5 hours to eat. So they're doing this all the time. They have no consideration for other people's property. This is not a big town. It's a small town. This town is smaller than the town that I grew up with. Town is smaller than the town that I grew up in. I would never touch anyone else's property. um, I wouldn't use someone else's mirror unless it was an absolute emergency. I wouldn't go around adjusting things, put my bag on someone's motorcycle. I wouldn't do that. It's inconsiderate. So the other thing is, I am now teaching English classes, and they did a review of of my work. So she had mentioned, well, during your interview, I was like, I didn't do an interview. Nobody interviewed me. And then she said, well, during your training, I didn't do a training class. There was no training. And so she was complaining about, small, unimportant things. And I was like, well, the reason why it was like this is because you didn't train me. What do you expect? I didn't. And the things that she was saying, you should do this, and you said, it was like, I do that. So they looked at some of my recordings, but they obviously didn't look at all of them. And they should know that I didn't do any training. I asked them, are you going to train me on how to teach, how you want me to teach a class? And they didn't respond. Um, in fact, when I told them, oh, by the way, you spelled subclass wrong, you have to put a space, they got angry. And the guy said, because like I said, they're like mini Hitlers. The guy says to me, we're the managers and you're the employee. You're not the manager and we're not your employee. You're not the teacher and we're not the student. And he said that the way, when I said you have to spell subclass with a space, he said, it's my opinion. It's not my opinion. Sub is an abbreviation for substitute. An abbreviation, SUB period, class with a space. What he wrote is subclass, all one word, which means subtype. Like, so when he said you have a subclass, I was like, I have a subtype? A subordinate class? What does that mean? When I saw the word substitute, I figured it out. And so the other thing that was curious is this woman, she's a Filipino as far as I know. She said to me, oh, I speak perfect English. I was like, no, you don't. You do not speak perfect English. They're unaware. I'm going to use the example. I was in a couple movies, and you got to read the script, and I was like, the script is supposed. I'm a foreigner, an American businessman in this particular script, and I was like, this is not the way we speak. We don't say the funders. Oh, we got to speak to the funders. That's a Filipino expression. I said investors. We say investors, and she goes, like, no, it's not. That's what funders is this, and investors is this. So I said investors, and they cut the line from the movie. Although I had like a long sequence, but they did cut that, and they're unaware of the fact that they speak wrong. And it's not like, for example, they don't say seamstress, they say sewer. So I met a lot of women. I'm a sewer. I'm a sewer. I'm a sewer. Um, there's other words that they do wrong, and um, this is an example. When I was in Colombia, I was waiting to meet with someone, and they were taking way too long, like half an hour, 40 minutes. They should have met me immediately. You know, you want to take care of your paperwork, you take care of it before you arrive. You don't start working on it after you arrive 10 minutes late or whatever. So I came in, I said, are you guys all set? And she said, no. So I came in 10 minutes later, you guys all set? She said, no. I came in like 30 minutes later, and I said, are you guys all set? She said, no. I'm not upset. And I said, oh, she misunderstands me. I don't misunderstand you. And I said, yes, you misunderstand me. I said all set, and I wrote all set on the chalkboard and walked out. They don't come up to say, oh, I'm sorry that I misunderstood what you said. That's never going to happen. Never hear apologies from people in the Philippines. They're always right, is the way it is. They are, like I said, they're mini Hitlers. And I've met a few nice people, but it's like 99% of them are just absolutely loco. It's like living in a bad neighborhood. You remember when you were in school and there was like one person who's a little bit crazy and you avoid that person? Over here, that's everybody. It's a scammer culture and it's sad. Okay, so that's it for today's episode of Life in the Philippines. Thank you.